Good morning, friends. We have a very big problem. And I'm tempted to say that the garden is the problem. But it's not. It's me.
She's not the problem. Did you just spill your coffee again?
I think I just spilled the coffee. We love a garden. And somehow we managed to keep the garden green all the way through to the middle of July. God has given us beautiful weather. Even right now, I'm sweating from all the places, but it's overcast, and that's kind of remarkable. However, I want to revisit this garden with you a few months ago. It was lush, things are popping off, things are starting to yield fruit. They're incredible. Today we're going to revisit what it needs now. Overgrowth is the big problem here, and thankfully we have a solution. So thank you to Wild Badger for sponsoring this video. We're going to show you exactly why we're thanking them and more on them in just a sec. Let's start with the good, get to the bad, and then the very ugly. This is great news. The herbs are still kicking. Check out, we have a couple kinds of basil, there is oregano in here, sage at the end, and then this volunteer tomato is still kicking. There's flowers on it, but because of our heat, we're not gonna get tomatoes right now. Like probably what will happen, there might even be some already, is that these flowers will turn brown, they'll kind of dry out, and then they'll fall off, and it's no big deal. But the oregano wants to bolt. She is very happy and ready to reproduce. And then I also have cucumbers in here, but I'll tell you in a minute why the garden has taken such a turn, because you think, Kelly, things are growing, it's manageable. What are you doing to ruin this garden? This is a honeysuckle that we're going to plant at our secret door when our neighbors move in. Right now, it's doing really well. I even had flowers on it the other week, but this is such a cool vining that it's doing. Do you see like the perfect spiral that it's forming up this trellis? I just love that look. Here is the ugly, maybe the bad. This might be the bad. So this grass has come from afar and become an entire inhabitant of this whole bed right here. This grass is can't stop, won't stop grass. And the reason it became there and there, all through here, but has recently been chopped down, is because we're watering this part of the garden on a sprinkler. So when you have just a drip irrigation like we do in these beds, we also have some drip irrigation over here. The water is just watering, exclusively watering that bed or that pot. And it's not going to pay any attention to the grass. So if I didn't have a sprinkler going over here, we'd probably solve a lot of problems and the grass would burn up and it would die because it's so hot. But because I have other things going, like these pots that don't have any water yet, this bed that doesn't have any drip irrigation on it, I need to use my sprinkler. So that is the bad. Ironically, my cucumbers, the one like fruiting thing in this whole bed, is maybe drying up. Like you see kind of some crusty leaves here, those are drying up. But then we're gonna get to the ugly. So the summer got hot and I was anticipating, last summer, I was anticipating 110 degrees in the shade. I was anticipating days with no rain. And the garden is ready to rest in the summer here. Cover it with some sweet potato vines, or in our case, grass, and then it does its thing, and we'll revisit in the fall. And that is a very good rhythm for us. It's something we've gotten used to. Well, wouldn't you know, summer did not turn so hot. We really haven't even broken 100 yet where we live, and we've had a really decent amount of rain. It's not crazy, but it's good enough. And all of that has turned into this garden that is running on its own. It's not dying, it's running on its own. And then at the end of June, Ella had her birthday and she and I went on this 10 trip. It's one of my favorite family traditions. And a 10 trip looks like mom taking that one kid or dad taking that one kid off on a trip really affordably overnight. We go stay in some cheap hotel with continental breakfast, but we just spend time together, just us and that kid. And we talk about being 10 and we talk about, you know, how God made them and what we see for them. And we ask them what they see for themselves, and it's amazing. except for the fact that I came back from that 10 trip. Ella and I went to San Marcos, and I drove the 3 hours home back from that 10 trip, and I came home blazing hot, completely sick. I went directly to bed, and I stayed in bed with a fever and a cough for 3 days. And then as I got better, day 4, maybe day 5, and I actually had strength to go outside, Ella got sick. So for about 2 weeks, I didn't set a foot in the garden. I barely stepped a foot outside the house. Jess at Roots and Refuge says, the best medicine for the garden is the gardener. I'm gonna own the gardener today. I'm gonna be the medicine. We're gonna come out here, take a look at what it's doing. I've done a lot of reading on like fall flower crops or cool weather crops. Well, I need to get some warm-ish weather flowers in, because that's something that I think is gonna be sustainable, and we won't miss it without the fruit. And if we're really, really good at it, and we practice in the harder season, I think we can create this cool farm stand that I have in my mind and do flowers and sourdough there. So we're gonna use this as the practice ground, and today is when we get to work. I think first in the garden you start with just pulling with a strategy, and then you just start letting your thoughts take over, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I could be praying in the garden. And then thoughts of other people come, and needs and all those things. I swear to goodness, it is like 110% humidity today with no rain. All right, this is where people get mad at Bermuda. I get it, I get it. It is villainous if your goal is to eliminate it. All right, guys, it's so hot. I have to take these off because I'm sweating from my eyeballs. There is one thing that we're using today in particular, aside from gloved hands. I tried it out just the other day, and I want to share the raw footage with you of my actual reaction, what I thought when I very first took out this wild badger mower. The garden is so well watered that I have to mow it, but I'm glad. I don't like wood chips in the garden. We've had them before. I just like to walk barefoot in the garden. But I also don't like the grass climbing at my legs. So we're gonna try out this wild badger and see how well it does. Where's the button here? Push this in.
Yeah, you pull it.
It's so light. It's so light. I probably really haven't mown the lawn since 7th grade. When we lived in the city, we had a service come. This is lighter than pushing your stroller. This is surprising. I don't want to give it too much credit, but it's kind of easier than weed eating, lighter than a kid's toy, and it's cutting things down. It's nice. It's so easy to start too, it's almost embarrassing. It feels like vacuuming.
Yeah.
It's not gonna mulch the corn. I don't know if it's good or bad to keep starting it. So I have to turn around in a tight corner. I can literally just
It's so light.
It's so light. I hope it's durable. One-handed, Mom. Pretty close to the edge, too. Taking it out.
Okay, so it died?
It died.
And I ran it for probably 30 minutes. But first impression?
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's surprisingly good.
It's kind of fun, huh?
Way better than I thought it would be. It's so light, but it was like part of chores at my house. And pushing the lawnmower was heavy. It would stop, you'd have to prime it, you'd have to pull the lever. And this was dreamy. I'm honestly surprised. Like, I'm usually very, very skeptical, especially when we try something new out, especially when someone approaches us in an email. It's too easy. I would assume maybe this. We are not looking for pro results. Like, I'm not trying to do even lines and compete with my neighbors in the HOA. But this is so stupid easy. Any one of us could do this with the exception of Georgia. But like Finley could run this. We're not trying to compete with the tractor either. This thing is so much cheaper, but I think before we ever got the tractor, when we first had cleared and the grass was growing back, we were out here with this weed eater, just like going back and forth, making kind of like wavy lines, and this is great.
All right, so what I'm really liking about this Wild Badger, it's so lightweight. I mean, you can lift it up at any moment, even Kelly can. And it does have the bag. I never really wanted a gas-powered push mower because it just doesn't make sense for us. I want to be able to take this bag off if I ever want it. Like, this is really good grass in here. We've never fertilized it, or like, you know, it's all practically all organic just from cow manure or anything like that, residual. But I can take this, especially if I had goats or sheep, I would be thinking that this is perfect. We have a lot of pigs, so this is the perfect fodder feed for our pigs.
Yeah, once you start cutting down, I feel like you see the garden. Before, it's just all a mess. In the middle of gardening, and you wish that you had more cloud coverage, but there's none. We have had a lot of questions about Goldie, and she is doing really well. The best advice that we got was to give her alfalfa just during the day, and that alfalfa was going to give her a, she's like, yes, look at all this grass they haven't let me in on yet. That alfalfa was going to give her a chance to dilute any fescue that she's gotten into. And she is looking great. Her coat is a really good color. She's not walking around panting at all. She's had really good days of just watching her sit and chew her cud and get up and walk around, even in the heat of the day. And then we'll find her browsing a lot in like the early evening, like 7 o'clock. Maybe that's late evening. 7 o'clock, and usually around morning time as well. So this morning we put BB the calf on her, who is slowly actually starting to wean herself. We're looking for a milk machine right now. And when we're doing a project like today, we just let them roam. So we have part of the property that's kind of like, there's a strand of hot wire there, so they're not going to go through it, but they'll stick close to home. And we notice in the summers that they do that anyways. I think not having to go far to get what they want, they really like. So where they sleep is close to the house, and then during the day you get happy cows just browsing on what's growing. Oh, this is probably a good look to see what our sprinklers are doing. So you can tell the difference right here. I was just in the garden bed, and we have drip irrigation, but I am telling you, it's not keeping up. Where all of this right here, sort of like a brownish grass is, our sprinkler reaches until the edge of that green grass. Thank you guys so much for asking after Goldie. When I shared that story about us trying to figure out how to help her feel better, she just looked miserable after some plants that she gets into just in our pasture we can't eradicate yet. Some people on Patreon asked about how she was doing, and she's looking really, really good. So yeah, thanks for caring about stuff like that. Sometimes, I think you've heard other homesteaders say this, but it can be lonely homesteading. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one who's in the mix of what you're doing, like you're the only one who's trying to troubleshoot your garden, or you're the only one whose cow is having issues, and that can be really embarrassing. and it can make you feel like maybe you're not doing a good enough job. So if vulnerable moments like this, or sharing that our cow is having a lot of issues with this overgrowth like we had with fescue, or over accessibility really, you're not alone. And we're all learning, and we're all learning on our homesteads or in our backyards or on your garden on the balcony of your apartment. Like, we're all learning, and I hope that this is a space that's really encouraging, not only hear what we say, but down in the comments. Like, we want this to be a place where people feel empowered and excited to do a new hard thing. This is looking good, guys. This is no longer the bad or the ugly. We are back to the good. Strawberries that I unearthed here and here. If you've wanted a vine that will not quit in zone 9, it is the passion flower. We have had these fritillary butterflies all over. You can see their caterpillars eat down to the nubs. They're these little kind of spiky looking black and somewhat red kind of design on the back. But that's the passion flower vine all the way back through there. There's a tall one right here. I think there's even some, yep, just sprouting up over here. It does not want to leave. However, the sun has come out and I am motivated to work in the shady part of the garden. Don't worry, guys. Look, there's more weeds here too.
Okay, so I'm gonna set this. Will you go look over there and to test it to see if the water's actually coming out? It should be coming out now.
So we're solving this small problem, which is over here, my full sprinkler ends right about here, but then you can actually even see this in screen. This is where it's just drip irrigation, and the difference is that this is getting the drip and the full sprinkler, and this is just getting the drip. Here we go.
Is it coming out?
It is. It's looking good. One good thing is that it's not going to soak up the water from the ground anymore. So we won't have the Bermuda grass stealing the water. However, we're going to need to mulch this whole thing, and then I need to plant a few more things to kind of cover and keep this from drying out this summer, even if I don't run my sprinkler this same way. So I'm going to try and focus the sprinkler on these beds. I think the trees that are not on drip, and then hopefully that resolves.
This wasn't on. Ah.
So it wasn't on.
It was not on.
Going with the drip irrigation this year, we have had a version of drip irrigation on half of the garden this whole time. However, this is good. I feel like I'm not crazy, because over here I've been like, dude, every time I come out here, this part of the garden is looking like trash. And this is not dripping.
No, it wouldn't be. That's on a different station.
This part of the garden is looking like trash. So it sounds like between batteries dying on the timer and also having just time where I didn't get out here, that together has probably been me missing some failures on the timer itself, and probably also contributed to the random overgrowth and then like the decline of the things I actually wanted to grow. Look at that. A fritillary butterfly on a Presley pink zinnia. Just living her best life. I don't want to go closer because I don't want to make her leave.
Maybe our lives were not meant to collide from the start.
All right, gonna take this, a little bit of a chop and drop to add some extra mulch here on the fig tree out along the trip line. This will help feed the soil a little bit, get my donut going. Actually, less than a donut, it's more just like a berm right here. So that's the low side, and this will help build things up. Give the fig tree a little reprieve from the competition of all of these other weeds. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna give the fig tree some rainwater.
Stay alive to prevent all the chaos. But happiness can't wait.
We are exhausted, a lot of work. Thank you to all of our patrons for helping keep this channel going. And then also thank you to Wild Badger, links down below. Okay, let's go get some water. I actually want an iced coffee.